Hi, I'm Rosanne and welcome to my garden. Today I'd like to take you around our backyard and take a look at trees. Our backyard is about 50 feet wide by 110 feet deep, and we have over 40 trees in our yard. I think trees, in addition to being just such an important part of a layered or diverse garden design, trees provide shade. I think we probably all can agree on that. They provide a great habitat for all sorts of critters, especially birds. They help clean the air. They take in carbon dioxide and in return give us oxygen, so that's pretty cool. So at any rate, let's go around the yard and take a look at some of my favorite trees and how they function in the landscape. Here I am sitting underneath two weeping white pines. I absolutely love the weeping white pines. When we planted most of this garden 15 years ago, we did so because we lost a very beautiful old American elm tree to Dutch elm disease. It was very large. It was 15 feet, the trunk was 15 feet in circumference. So we lost a lot of shade and went to a lot of sun very quickly. So one of my priorities was to get the trees planted as soon as possible. And after that we filled in other structures such as the shrubs and the perennials and much of the hardscape. Here's a picture that was taken 8 years later. Unfortunately, the beautiful wooden bench ended up rotting, but we did replace it with a beautiful stone bench, which my husband built. This is a weeping mulberry tree. It's lost its leaves already this fall, but this is actually a really nice time to look at the structure of the weeping mulberry. It's not a typical mulberry in that it doesn't bear any fruit, therefore it bears no seeds, and it's easily controlled. I do prune it quite strongly about once a year, maybe once every 2 years, but I always prune the dead wood out every spring. While not technically a tree, I have to show you one of my favorite plants in the garden, and this is a procumbens spruce. It's a beautiful blue. It's covered a bit with leaves right now, but it is a stunner in the garden. It adds so much contrast, both in terms of color and foliage, to the other plants in the garden. Above it, we have a crabapple tree, which again provides great food for the birds and the wildlife. It's called Louisa, and it can look a lot more weepy than this. Here's a picture of it in the spring when it's full of flowers. It's just gorgeous. We do prune this, as we prune most of our trees, every March when the trees are dormant. Continuing along the south side of our garden, I've got a beautiful birch tree. There is nothing better than a birch tree for trunk interest. I love the white paper of the bark. It's absolutely lovely all times of year, and it seems to like this climate. Behind the birch tree, we have a northern catalpa tree. I like it because of its very airy, open, branching habitat. It's funny, most catalpas look different. Every catalpa seems to have its own personality, which is why we chose this tree and we enjoy it so much. Some people call it a messy tree in that it has long pods that fall mostly in the fall, but really in the spring as well. And it also has gorgeous blooms, which again some people don't like, but I think are gorgeous and well worth the effort it takes to clean them up. Here's our beautiful serviceberry tree. It provides so much fruit for the birds. It's a very popular tree. We've even had a wren nesting in a birdhouse this last summer. It is airy. It provides light shade, so I can have partial shade perennials underneath the bed. And it has this gorgeous fall color. I mean, what more could you ask for? This is a Troutman juniper. It has a very narrow growth habitat, and this tree is at least 10 years old, so you can see it stayed narrow. I will say that at the moment it's wrapped with twine, and this is to keep the tree from splaying open when too much snow falls on it. The weight of the snow will often push the branches down, and it can take the tree quite a while to recover in the summer once that happens. So we like to prevent that altogether by tying up our arborvitae, our small arborvitae, and this beautiful Troutman juniper. This is a weeping pussy willow tree. It's about 10 years old, and it's absolutely charming in this perennial bed. It doesn't cast much shade, but it provides a strong vertical interest in the bed. It's grown over the years, and you can see the trunk has gotten quite gnarly, which I think just adds to the character. When the leaves are on, you really can't see all of this. And what's extra special is that some birds decided to create a little home all by themselves in the trunk of the tree. We just adore this tree, although we know it's probably not going to be very long-lived. We enjoy it when we have it. I'm afraid we've missed most of the beautiful fall color of the Korean maple. This clump form of the Korean maple is new this year. We bought it just this spring. It should be zone 4 hardy, so we will see how it overwinters, but it really was quite lovely in the summer with very delicate leaves, and the fall color was really quite beautiful. North of our garden shed, we have a blue-colored spruce tree. This is a fat Albert spruce. And I again love the blue, the color that it adds to the landscape against all of the green. It's not quite as evident today because many of the leaves have already fallen. But it's a real stunner of a tree. We've had this tree for probably about 25 years. Here's another serviceberry. This is a clump form. Because of the success with our other serviceberry, we planted another one. It has just the most beautiful fall foliage, and again, it provides wonderful fruit for the birds. To this side of me, we have a white pine, a columnar white pine, and it should stay that narrow. Again, this tree also is at least 10 years old and has a very narrow growth habitat. So it adds, in a very narrow space, it adds so much substance and height, and it's a very statuesque tree. And white pines are very popular and grow well here in Minnesota. We planted 3 of these Acroconus spruce when our elm tree came down. Again, that was about 15 years ago. And they've grown together, so it sort of looks like one big tree. I have another one in the yard that I'll show you so you can get a better idea of their structure. But they're absolutely fun trees because in the spring, their cones emerge as bright red little nubs at the tips of their stems. So it's just really unusual and charming. You can see from the diminutive nature of this weeping hemlock, it's a miniature tree, and I absolutely love it. Now hemlocks don't like bright sun. They need to be protected, at least in zone 4, from both the sun and the wind. I have it on the north side of some other spruce trees, so that protects it from the sun most of the time in the summer. But in the winter time, we actually have to add a screen of burlap so that the winter sun doesn't burn the branches. Sometimes you might see a weeping hemlock and it has a lot of brown needles, and that is because, well, probably because it got too much sun in the winter. In this area of our yard, I really strove for different color combinations and fall interest. The 3 trees in the back are red bear and crabapple trees. They grow very narrow and have a very nice summer and fall foliage. I have another crabapple tree. It's this round little lollipop shaped tree. And then in front of it I have blue. I have 4 blue trees throughout the yard. I think I've introduced you to 3 of those. This is a Zester's dwarf, and again, it is a miniature variety. It shouldn't really get much bigger than this. All of these trees are about 15 years old also. The last area of the backyard I'd like to show you is home to 2 upright Japanese yew. This is on the north side of the house and gets shade from the house. In the summer, the area is lush with hosta, snow on the mountain, and Irish moss growing between the stone path. The birds love this area as the trees provide shelter and we provide food and water in the winter. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of trees in our backyard, and when you're doing a landscape design, we'll consider adding trees to your landscape. There are so many varieties that these days are bred to stay small, and they can fit in small spaces quite well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, thanks.